Welcome everybody to episode 12, gone into a dozen now, of the Unchained Vodcast. Today we are catapulting goals, talking about siegecraft in Camelot Unchained. I have with me Chris as always, and the smiling CloakingDonkey. Hello everybody.
Hello.
Hey.
We've got a little bit of choking on our intro. Yes, Foggy. Alright, today we're going to be talking, as I said, about siegecraft. Recently, we had the Siege Q&A, an announcement and everything, talking about all the cool siege mechanics, during which chat pretty much guessed most of the cool hidden things that Mark was trying to sneak out about crafting, and he fussed a little bit. So we got lots of cool info about crafting that we're going to talk about. We're going to speculate a little bit, get your questions and your thoughts on, and see what's what. So to start off, I wanted to ask a very basic question for both chat and for the two of you. When you think about Siege, what is the first thing that comes to mind?
Giant balls of fire.
To me, it's ladders, because I've been playing way too much Total War, and it's the first thing I always build when I siege a castle.
That was me as well. I was thinking about this the other day, and I thought ladders and climbing over walls. I have played some Total War though, so that might be why.
Nah, I'm all for the trebuchets.
I like lots of destruction, lots of fire and stuff as well, but I don't know why. Maybe it's because I tend to play a lot of tanks in MMOs, but I immediately think of getting into melee, climbing the walls, getting inside.
Yep. I'm thinking ahead. I know that I'm going to be playing a heavy fighter or a shapeshifter or something that wants to mix it up in melee, and so obviously I need a way to get there. And trebuchets are nice, catapults, ballista, it's all great stuff, but just climbing the walls and getting in there is really where my heart is.
Shapeshifting into a donkey. Foggy wants to catapult Lucherpan into the river. And they did say that we can catapult people over the walls. I'm sure you'll probably die when you land, but...
Details.
Yeah, who cares? That's fine. They're just Lucherpan. It's okay.
We'll hit the other guys too.
So, I guess to start off as the first actual topic of conversation, again, for chat and for us, first thing I wanted to genuinely ask, I guess, for discussion is, when they've mentioned that there's going to be lots of different types of siege weapons, and as we know, historically and fantasy-wise, there's tons of different types of siege. So, what different types of siege weapons and strategies do you really want to see make its way into the game?
Well, since we talked about ladder, I want to see a siege tower. An actual siege tower. On the Arthurian side, because it sounds more Arthurian than anything else.
I could see it for Vikings, too. Especially ladders, though.
Yeah. I see them, for the Viking, I see more of a ram than a siege tower. Sounds more like them.
Yeah.
I gotta be honest, I'm not entirely partial to any specific siege weapon when it comes to the historical stuff, because I think all of them have their uses, and they could all easily be in the game in pretty much all three of the realms. But what I'm really interested in is the possibilities that Camelot Unchained has because of having magic as such an important part of the game, and such an important part of the world. But for the historical stuff, I guess I'll have to go with the siege tower as well. It's just too good.
I mentioned fantasy as well, so if you want to work some magical thoughts in there too, that is perfectly fine by me.
Okay, because I've been thinking about this all week, so I immediately have to... Okay, so my idea for the Vikings would be a type of magic where they can basically freeze a wall or freeze a gate to then shatter it with a ram.
That'd be pretty
cool.
It
would, of course, take longer on a wall, but it would be an interesting way of getting into the castle without using, say, a trebuchet, which obviously takes more effort to build than just a big log with a ram's head on the end.
Basically a way to weaken the wall via magic.
Yeah, exactly.
I would see frost giants just throwing rocks.
That's good too.
I could see that.
I
Yeah,
like
summonable AIs that can
Yeah.
throw boulders and things.
That would be fun.
I mean, the keeps themselves do have some sort of passive defenses, which we'll get to later. So I could see it maybe being possible to have some sort of a passive or AI-controlled offense to offset some of that. Though,
Although-
of course, I wouldn't want to see it turn into tower defense mode with the keeps, because then what are we doing?
Yeah.
Yeah, the only thing about that is it means a siege a siege capacity not done by crafters, and they did say that it's all crafter made.
Yeah.
So,
That's true.
But I could see some different types of magical things as well, like Treebeard had just mentioned ints, Lord of the Rings style. I could see the TDD, like a single player controlling an int, like maybe it could even be
Construct.
crafter. Exactly,
golem.
exactly. That's what I was gonna say. Crafters build things through magic, so why couldn't they theoretically create and summon a giant ant tree guardian that would march through and start smashing at the walls, and someone's riding it like a hobbit with his little rocks.
yeah.
The Lucher Pan can ride it.
Or they could just literally awaken the trees and turn them into soldiers that then run up to the wall, or run trees, you know, they would slowly march up to the wall and then either smash it or just root next to the wall and use the roots to bring down the walls.
Yeah.
There's so many possibilities with magic, it's beautiful.
One of the main strategy type things I was into, one of the first things I thought of, aside from ladders, of course, is I really hope that there are some constructive ways to build starvation, historical starvation tactics into the siege, which I can see them doing if you have to. They've said you have to have power to power a lot of the defenses.
Yeah.
So if they just have the power coming from externally through caravans or something like that, then theoretically the attackers on the siege can cut that supply off, and thus not completely kill everyone via starvation, but more starve out the defenses of the keep to weaken it enough that they can just move in and tear things down easier.
That's what makes the siege more interesting, is that eventually the defenders will run out of. Historically, it was food and water. In CU, you won't have that problem, so it would be either power or materials to repair the keep and keep it defensible.
Yeah. Another thought is, we know he also mentioned, Mark also mentioned that the longer a keep, the deeper it is in your territory, and the longer it's been held, the longer it will take to capture. Well, one thing I thought of is maybe the longer it's contested by a siege, maybe that still also kind of counts against how long it'll take to capture it. So if they're sitting outside the walls for 5 hours trying to capture it and fighting over it, then maybe once they do actually get inside, it doesn't take as long to take over as if they had just walked right in the door without, doing the lengthy siege.
You definitely have to be careful with sort of starvation mechanics as well, though, because if that becomes too effective, then it becomes boring for the defenders again.
Yeah.
So there has to be a way for the defenders to counter that, so that they're not just stuck there waiting for their resources to run out and for the attackers to then finally make their way inside.
Yeah, they definitely have to be balanced with it, but I think they need something like that, because otherwise, what incentive do the defenders have to not just sit inside the whole time? If they've got enough defenses, then they can hold off just about anybody. They have to have some way to force them to come out and engage them to kill their catapults.
Maybe just actively maintaining your power lets it stay longer than if you just hold up. If you defend the keep, your power might, because it would use up less power than if you just hold up and don't do anything and just keep the attackers at bay. Your power might run out a lot faster this way. So you would actually have to actively defend your keep to keep your power levels up.
Yeah, Foggy wants to be able to feed NPC defenders, and I think that's kind of what we're talking about. I mean, everything gets pulled into power for the defenses, but that's just kind of, I think, an amalgamation of terms. It's food. It's just power, because, food doesn't really fit for everything. Neither does power, really, but they just basically lump it into one resource. I think that's what will end up happening.
The cool thing about the power system, I think, is that it definitely gives the option to sort of add a mini game to it that, like there was in PlanetSide 1, if either of you have played that.
Yes.
Where basically, your base had power, and it powered all the shields, and you could replenish that power by harvesting crystals and then bringing that back with the ants. Obviously, you wouldn't have a car in Camelot Unchained, but you could have power crystals.
Caravan.
Or power sources that you could then load into some device and bring it with a caravan to the castle. That would also make it more important for castle builders to make sure that they have a secondary way of getting into the castle, which sort of opens up more options for building. And
it just adds a layer of strategy to the sieges.
That's exactly what I had in mind with the Starvation tactics. Is thinking back to PlanetSide 1 and how you had to go and you had to get that energy to keep fueling your systems, or they started shutting down. I think having some way that the defenders can the attackers can prevent them from recharging their systems will help prevent their enemies from just turtling up and doing nothing else.
And at the same time, if the defenders have to leave to get more energy and run around with caravans, that opens up the option for smaller groups to do harassment tactics on those caravans without having to join the actual Zerg that is
cutting the supply lines.
Yeah. Now, I also had some historical siege that I had to write down so I wouldn't forget them. Because I think there's a lot of different siege weapons that I would like to see made into the game besides just the traditional, there's a trebuchet, and there's a battering ram, and there's a siege tower. I mean, these are all pretty common things amongst games. We know there's probably going to be some type of bombs to kind of sap the walls and weaken them and stuff. I'm afraid most of the things I thought of that I really wanted to see were kind of Roman design siege, like the Springald, which kind of a mechanical ballista. I think I would like to see some weapons like that are actually anti-personnel. And I actually thought about those a little bit more in terms of like the TDD, because they're smaller and might be able to be maneuvered more to help kill off people rather than worrying so much about the defenses. Since they're supposed to be a little bit more hit and run focused.
Yeah.
Of course, there's all kinds of crazy Asian weapons like the Hwacha with their fire rockets and stuff. But I know they don't really want to get too much into gunpowder. But you can still do that with magic.
There's that Korean thing that fired hundreds of arrows at the same time.
Yeah, the Hwacha. That's what I was referring to.
I don't speak Korean.
The two of them, though, I thought of. One was the wagon fort for the TDD, which is basically a mobile fortress wagon thing. Yeah. I could see the TDD riding around in that. Since they are kind of hit and run, they have like a big mobile fort that's wooden that would help them move around and stay for a fight more instead of having to siege and then back off and hit and back off.
Yeah.
Another thing...
I would actually like to see that for the Vikings instead, because I think it could... theme-wise and mythology-wise, it would fit a bit better, because the Vikings obviously have Thor, and Thor in his chariot. I think that would make a cool piece of imagery to have this moving fort drawn by huge rams as the chariot of Thor.
Maybe. That could be cool.
This is not a gameplay thing. This is simply for theme and mythology purposes. It would make me happy in my happy place.
I admit, when I thought of that, I was thinking of Lord of the Rings, when they had the Oliphants and the guys with the archer placements all over the Oliphants. I was thinking of that for the TDD. Just riding around like a giant elephant or something, shooting arrows at things.
Well, they did say we'd have huge beasts to drag the caravans, so you can use those to drag a mobile castle, just like the old nomad tribes had a lot of huge wagons that they were dragging around that were basically their homes. So that would work. Since I'm gonna make a siege crafter, I want Greek fire. I really want Greek fire, and throw that in the middle of with the trebuchet. Throw that in the middle of the courtyard of the keep.
I think there's definitely going to be some types of AoE anti-personnel things that you can do with the trebuchets and everything. Especially, I think the TDD will probably have some of that. But I'm sure everybody will have some capacity for it as well. And, you know, the Arthurians love their fire. The one thing I thought of, I did a lot of research because I know a lot of history stuff, but I don't know every type of siege weapon. But I found one reference to something that I thought was really interesting, which was quicklime, which are apparently these big, like, jugs of lime that they would throw at their enemies, and they hit the air and they blind them. And I thought that was pretty cool. I was like, oh, that's so it got me thinking about different types of not even just siege destruction, but also siege CC crowd control in different ways.
I definitely think you have to be careful though with the anti-personnel weapons because it can very quickly end up being like Guild Wars 2, where it's really just clean out the defenders and then have a nice PvE fight for 10 minutes.
Yeah, which is definitely not that fun. It's definitely not what we want. We definitely don't want siege killing people. Too much.
Even if you have anti-personal siege engines, the defenders should have also anti-siege engines.
Yeah.
Ballistas were designed to be anti-siege engine weapons in the first place.
The keeps are going to have ballista to take out other people's catapults and everything.
I would actually like to see a lot of this siege engine destruction be in the hands of scouts. Because I think that once the keep siege actually happens,
that would be great.
The scouts really don't have that much to do anymore. So for them to sort of take this sapper role, maybe supporting the crafters in this, I think that could add an interesting aspect to their class.
I really agree. I think having scouts as at least able to either weaken or completely, maybe not single-handedly just destroy siege weapons, but be able to...
Or maybe just crowd control the siege engine. Just lock it down for 10 seconds or 20 seconds.
Yeah.
That would already help a crafter to run up and then blow it up, maybe.
Cut the rope of a ballista or a trebuchet, and you disable them. Not destroying them, but disabling them until a crafter has to go up to it to repair it.
Yeah. One other thing I wanted to bring up when it comes to siege, and this is something that I think is... I've actually been surprised so far that I haven't seen a lot of people ranting about this, because I thought it would have been more controversial immediately than it has been, I think, is what do you think... he said that there's going to be different passive defenses for the keeps. I wanted to see what everyone thought about that.
I mean the automated defenses.
Yeah, the automated defenses. There's going to be maybe siege weapons that can fire by themselves when people attack. NPC guards, which we already kind of knew about, but...
Basically a bunch of sentry turrets.
Yeah, effectively.
As long as they delay the attackers, but are not overpowered enough to actually defend on their own, but just allow to buy time for defenders to arrive, even if they're locked out of the keep, to arrive and have a chance of getting into their keep or breaking the siege, I'm okay with that. But they have to be either destructible enough or weak enough not to make a huge difference in the siege. The moment the defenders are in the keep, they should be pretty much useless.
I agree. I think there should be a... Well, I do believe that the automated defenses should be in place to basically stop small groups of enemies taking a castle when there's no defenders. So, because in Dark Age of Camelot, that's something that happened all the time. That one 8-man group would go around and just take all the castles of one faction overnight. And that's just... I don't think that's very fun. Because there's really not much you can do about it, because most of us have work in the morning. So, and I do think that it should be powerful enough to keep away, I don't know, let's say 1 group to 2 groups of people. But as soon as you have an actual sieging party, an actual raid, then it shouldn't be enough anymore. And as soon as defenders are in the castle, they should probably count toward the power requirements of the castle, the actual defending players, so that it kind of forces the defenders to into the decision to having to disable the automated defenses as long as they are personally there.
Yeah, because that was gonna be one of my. I have a few issues with the automated defenders. I know that to some degree they're necessary, but that was gonna be one of my key issues. Is when you have automated defenses, how do you, and then you have live defenders there, how do you keep them from stacking and becoming undefeatable because you've got both automated defenses and actual players defending the keep?
Because well, you could have a mechanic where once you have a certain amount of live defenders in the castle, the automated defenses start using up a lot more power. So if you keep them on, your keep's power is going to go down a lot faster than if you just turn them off and actually actively defend the castle.
Mm-hmm.
Or another idea could be that the automated defenses have, say, an active power cost, meaning as long as they are active and automated, they continuously drain power, so that basically when the guild leader goes to bed at night, he turns on the automated defenses, and then you turn them back off in the morning so that the power can recharge during the day. And during the day, you hopefully have defenders.
Yeah, I could see them maybe not being on the whole time, but like when someone attacks, see them activating and draining power. Maybe make them designed so that they can't run continuously for a long time. So if somebody attacks, they'll be powered for, say, 1 to 2 hours, and then in most keeps, they're probably going to start running out of power. So then even if other players do show up and defend, the attackers know, all right, we got to pretty much slog this out for an hour, then their automated defenses are going to turn off, and we can move in and get into an actual serious fight. But then, of course, that adds a problem where the attackers they know pretty much any keep they're gonna, even if they're defenders, they're gonna get in there and they're gonna have like an hour or two where they probably really are just camping outside, going, nah, we'll wait, keep shooting your ballistas at us.
That might make the sieges the first. Well, if the first hour or 2 hours of a siege are boring like that, people will just stop sieging.
Yeah, exactly.
That's true.
That's the concern, I guess.
But at the same time, it's definitely more important in Camelot Unchained to do something, well, to at least discourage night raiding. Because, I mean, in Dark Age of Camelot, that stuff really didn't matter that much. Sure, sometimes you logged in and everything was owned by the Viking, or by Midgard, and then you just took it back, right? So who cares? But here, you might lose weeks of work building a castle or a town, and that's not that fun when you just lose that overnight to, I don't know, an 8-man group. Even
without losing the keeps themselves, I hate the night capping. It's really boring for me. Like, not doing the capping, but when I log out and then I log back in and the whole map has flipped, and I'm like, oh, we got a lot of stuff to capture. We've recaptured it. Then we do that every night for a week. Yeah. At that point, I'm like, all right, I'm tired of this. I'm bored. This is ridiculous. Every time I log in, log off, they're going to recap everything.
ESO.
PlanetSide 2.
Also,
and PlanetSide 1, let's be honest, both of them. We capped the whole map. Yay, us! Log in 2 hours later, it's all been taken again. Let's start over. And that actually brings up an interesting point that I wanted to bring up, which is, and Mark Jacobs mentioned that he wants the community's feedback on this. How do you feel? You know, the keeps themselves are going to have shields. They're going to have like segmented shields to help keep people from just being able to walk up and immediately start hitting the keep. They're going to have to get through that shield first, which I think is a good idea for helping the night capping issue.
Yeah.
But should they give some kind of a warning to the realm that owns the keep, or should it just not provide any sort of alert?
You need to build a watchtower. Otherwise, it doesn't alert you. That's simple as I don't see why you would be alerted, unless, of course, it's the guild. You have automated defenses, then the guild who owns the keep, not the realm, but the guild who owns the keep gets an alert, or the guild leader, really. Unless you build a watchtower and then it alerts the realm that this keep is being attacked.
That was my thought. Go ahead.
I've actually been thinking about this the week. I don't know if you guys watched my video, but I said that I wasn't entirely sure about this and had to think about it, and so I did. And basically, I think that a realm-wide alarm, just like you said, that should not be in the game, because it is too damn powerful. It is too easy for a neighboring castle or town or guild hall or whatever to just come and join the defense. And it's going to be too hard to actually take keeps. And if you really sit down and scout out what the enemy is doing and then catch them by surprise while they're all gone doing some other thing, and you take their castle, that's what you did. That you earned that by being smart about it and actually tricking them into all leaving. But I do think that there should either be a defense, an automated defense that is basically an alarm bell, that as soon as the automated defenses start firing at something, the alarm bell its only purpose is to alert the guild that owns it, or at least the person who built it, to the castle being attacked. Or the other thing, that it could be built into the scout system. Because I really find this important. I really want that the scouts are really important in the game. And I think that it would be very fun to have sort of a system where the more powerful your scout character is, the longer the range at which you can detect an enemy raid. So that when they are attacking a castle and you are within, I don't know, say 200 meters, but you're still behind a forest, you sense that there's something going on, and then you go there and inspect it, and then you can alert the realm that something's going on.
Yeah, this is an area where I like Casper Hess's idea that he posted in chat of maybe instead of getting an automated alert, they start attacking your shields, and the automated defenses of your keep send up like a smoke signal, and that scouts can then see and they can target it, and then they can send a notice across the realm that goes, "Hey, I saw a smoke signal that's getting attacked. We need to..." And then they can actually go over there and identify how many people are actually there and send that information to go, "Oh, it's just 3 people being stupid," or "There's an actual army there, and we need to get people out there." I could also see like a guild alert, like the guild that owns the keep giving the guild leader or the officers or whatever some sort of alert going, "Your keep's under attack." I think the smoke signal idea plays more into the scouts, which is cool, because I also would like to see the scouts more prominent in the game.
But it ties also into with the discussion we had in a previous cast about the chat.
It does.
I'm still not completely in favor of a realm-wide chat, because that would mean make it a lot easier to actually gather troops for any keep siege.
Hey, there's smoke over blah 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 keep.
Yeah. Rather having a chat per island, yes. Realm-wide, not really.
What I want to see when it comes to chat is just a quick detour. I don't want a realm chat either, but I do think that an alliance chat, like in Camelot, should be in the game. But the longer the people in the or the further the people in the alliance are away from the person chatting, the longer it should take for that message to actually reach them. So that when they say our castle is under attack and they're, I don't know, on the other end of the map, then it should take 5 to 10 minutes for that message to actually get to them. Because otherwise, it is still too easy for them to join the defense, even if they're far away.
Well, depends on the travel time also. But
sure.
It ties into what Sakrix says in the chat about camping alts into the keeps, so you can log into your alt the moment the keep is attacked. I don't know how I feel about that.
You could fix that in
not being able to log into a keep.
Exactly. As soon as the castle is under attack, all your characters are on a minute cooldown or 5-minute cooldown from logging in, so that you can't just immediately join the defense.
Yeah, I don't necessarily have a problem with alts being in your own keep, and you can log into your own keep to defend it. I don't have too big. I do see like an issue with it. I don't see like a huge issue with it. The thing I have an issue with is the idea that people could leave alts logged out, and then once a keep gets captured, log into the keep after the people who have attacked it have left, and then they're already inside the keep. I think there would definitely need to be a way to prevent people from doing that, from logging into an enemy keep, which I think would be pretty easy. They pretty much just have to set it up. Oh, you're logging into an enemy territory, it's going to kick you out and make you spawn at the safe zone or something, or some other place,
or at least outside the keep.
Yeah, at
point
least.
Away from the keep.
Yeah, the one last thing I had about the scouts and the smoke signal type of idea is one thing they could do also to help counteract the chat issue is simply have the scouts have a better ability to spot the smoke or whatever signal it is from a longer distance. So maybe normal people can only see it if they're actually close to the keep, whereas scouts might be able to have some kind of I can see smoke, some sort of a alert or something going like, there's something this direction, so the scout knows, oh, my sixth sense is tingling, let me travel over here or something, and then until they can actually find it and then mark it on their map, and then go report the actual dispositions of people and stuff. They might have some way to actually guide them maybe to the keep or something, or to the smoke so that they can actually mark it. I don't know.
If I may,
yeah,
a quick response to Sacrex's comment about the voice comms. I know that there's voice comms in 2016. I know that TS3 servers are really cheap, but I think that even though we can expect most guilds, most lines, and even most server communities to have voice chat, there's not really anything we can do about that. So having the game still built in a way that it at least requires people to go to voice comm is, I think, the minimum of what you can do to make the game,
I agree.
Well,
and VoIP servers aren't cheap.
That is true. I mean, I'm paying for my own VoIP server. I know.
Yeah, we pay for our guild VoIP server. We've got I think we allow to have like 50 or 60 people on at a time, and that's more like $45 a month or something. It's not cheap.
That's expensive.
So for a realm-wide VoIP server to support voice communication for everybody, you would have to
hook you up with a cheaper source there.
You would have to. I don't remember the exact amount, but it might be 30. I don't know.
I pay 60,
it's a lot more than that.
3 months.
It might be. It might be 90 simultaneous users. I don't remember.
It's
on auto pay.
75.
Right now, yeah.
Yeah.
But anyway, the point is to have a server-wide VoIP, you would have to have a huge VoIP account because we're talking about like 3,000 concurrent users on the server at a time, possibly. So you'd have to have a pretty big VoIP account to be able to communicate back and forth all this stuff. I guess you could have just the guild leaders also in that server, but
well, I mean,
I don't think it renders scouts useless because I don't want to do that. I don't want to have to go be in a central VoIP just to get news about the game. That's annoying.
Well, honestly, that's a scout role in itself. Be the guy who who joins all the different TeamSpeak servers to relay information.
Yeah.
Well, you could have a Discord for each server or for each alliance, but still...
they need to improve their performance before I do that.
Yeah.
Last time I checked, their performance wasn't quite on par with TS. So.
He's right though in the sense that even if there's no realm-wide TeamSpeak server or any VoIP, you're still gonna have at some point most of the guilds are gonna have most of the VoIP servers of all the other major guilds on the server.
And even if they don't, people can private message people in game.
Yeah.
Have a list. Hey, you blah 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 is happening. You blah 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 is happening. Hit the major alliances and then they disseminate it. I don't think it negates scouts though, because there's going to be tons of, not only because it's just convenient to have the scouts identify things for people and then they don't have to do all this annoying coordination with chat, but also there's going to be tons of ungilded people who are not going to have any idea where they're going. They're going to be in chat all the time. Where should I go? Where's the battle at? Where am I going? Where are people fighting at? And the scouts are going to be going, look at the stupid map. I've marked it for you.
Map.
Anyway, let's see what we got here. Talking about VoIPs.
Sacrex definitely has a point that Scout is a difficult class to get right. And it is definitely, without a question, the class that I'm most worried about, that it might end up not being that great. But I think at least trying to have a Scout class is still a fine endeavor. I mean, let's face it, it's not a class that we were supposed to have originally. It's a bonus class, so if it doesn't work out, I'm not super sad. But it would be a cool system.
I agree. I think it has a lot of potential. And I think, like you said, adding stuff like the keep, being able to do keep alerts through scouts and everything, adding things like that will help make the scout a useful and vital class to the game. The more things like that they weed out of the scout that could be potentially moved into a scout system, just hurts the class and is going to make them less useful. So I think as many things as they can possibly tie to the scouts, they're going to want to. Especially
enough things that aren't just running around and marking, as Zachary said, groups of people for your realm. They should have other jobs too.
And then we have to remember they do have jobs in or around combat. They're not just marking things on the map. They're going around and they're going to be revealing stealthers. They're going to be pinpointing targets and things like that.
If you're an Arisen, you'll be puking a lot.
Oh, yeah. Let's see. The last main siege topic I wanted to bring up for everybody, which we've kind of touched on a little bit already, is realm customization. They mentioned that the realms are going to be customized in sieges in different fashions, different types of siege strategy and equipment and stuff. So what ways do y'all think they can customize either the tactics or the weapons themselves for each of the realms?
Personally, I think that the Vikings should have weaker trebuchets, or maybe not even any trebuchets at all. Not just because it's historically entirely out of place, but also because I think it doesn't really reflect what the realm is or what the realm wants to do. They are all about punching people in the face, so they should be good at siege weapons that facilitate that. So siege towers or ladders and rams. They should try to bring anti-shield weapons, I guess.
Maybe covered wagons.
Shields. Yeah. Yes, yeah.
Transports.
Anything that gets them into the castle so that they can actually hit people and do the things they so love to do.
I can definitely agree with that. That was pretty much what I had written for them. Was covered wagons. I think was the only thing that you didn't mention that they might have, because I could see them all hunkering down in like a Trojan horse style vehicle of some sort, rolling up to the gate and then being like, surprise, blah! And they all spill out of it and start running up there.
Trojan horse. Is it Trojan?
Not literally a Trojan horse, but same concept. Some sort of covered wooden thing.
That'd be a great callback to Dungeon of Camelot. Just a huge stone troll that is hollow in the inside and is filled with Vikings.
Alternatively, as you mentioned, the like the chariots, they could have some sort of fast transport like that allows them to rush up to the keeps.
Protected.
Maybe even carrying things like the ladders and stuff, so they could rush up there, get there, close the distance quickly, then get out ladders and start putting them up against the walls and everything.
Gotta, of course, be careful that doesn't invalidate their caravans.
Of course, yeah.
Or it doesn't give them overpowered caravans.
I'd like to come back to a comment Foggy made at the beginning of the cast. Is we talked a lot about the attacking side and a bit about the defending side with the automatic defense. But there is a risk of overpowering the attacking side during the active siege. The defending side has to, aside from going out to try to kill people from the back, going around the attackers, or trying to shoot their siege engines, the attackers have to have a possibility. The defenders, have to have a possibility to keep repair the keep actively, not just rebuild the wall the moment there's a hole in there, but pulling up a barricade if somebody makes a breach in the wall, being able to just build the barricade first and then push it against the hole that's been breached, things like that. So I think that's but half a crafter job, half the combatant's job to put it up. Crafters to make it, combatants to put it up. But yeah, there needs to be an active defense from inside the castle, not just having to go out and killing the attackers, but actually defending the castle from inside.
I could see it being really interesting having a way to sort of reinforce and board up holes and everything. Not to restore them to 100%, but
Yeah.
like, basically you push out with your melee people. They push out of the hole that got made. They hold the attackers off for a minute while other people throw up some sort of a patch to at least cover up the hole and reinforce it. Maybe mages make walls of fire or something to surround it to keep people out of it, and then they patch it up enough that then the attackers have to kind of go over and tear it down again. I could see something like that being
honestly
used.
my biggest request really when it comes to both the defenders and the attackers is that melee characters just have to be more useful than they were in both Warhammer Online and Dark Age of Camelot. Because in
You
both
mean
of those
in
games,
pretty much every PvP MMO ever?
in pretty much every game that has sieges, yeah. Because usually
Yeah.
you're just the idiot who uses the siege weapon. And
Yeah.
sure, using siege weapons could be much more fun in Camelot Unchained, but it would be nice to be directly involved in the fight more. So I
agree.
totally agree when, being able to push out and have the crafters patch up the wall behind you, or, even just being able to open the gates and rush out and, form a shield wall, do a bit of fighting, and then retreat back into the castle, something like that. It would just be nice. Or ladders, just so we can have fights on the walls.
Gotta have ladders. One thing, going back to the realm focus, for Arthurians, since I'm obviously biased, one thing I thought of with Arthurians is I would kind of like to see them, since they seem to have this defensive focus, I would like to see them with some interesting defensive anti-siege or siege tech, boiling pitch, things like that that are traditionally kind of European, that the Arthurians might be able to use to keep out some of the people. Maybe the Vikings come up with their ladders and they tump it over and pour boiling pitch over them, and or boiling oil, whatever. And I couldn't think of any special defensive things other than that. That was my main thing. I was trying to think of other defensive techs that they might have that would be, or other siege techs that might be cool Arthurian-esque type things.
Well, the Arthurians are so classically. I mean, even I'm gonna have a video next week about armor, and the Arthurians are so heavily inspired in everything they do by historical stuff that it's just hard to imagine just crazy fantasy stuff for them.
Yeah,
I really have a problem with that.
When I start
I
trying
don't mind it, but
when I start
it's
trying to think of like unusual magical stuff for them, I really have to start delving my brain really deep into the Arthurian lore, which unfortunately, the deeper you go into the magical aspect of that, the more you start getting towards the TDD. You really do.
It is Welsh folklore.
Yeah.
Right? And Welsh are definitely Celtic. So as soon as you go deeper, you end up with all the Celtic stuff.
Yeah.
For the Arthurians, I would see something more alchemical than magical.
That's true.
Maybe
Yeah, like
they
they've
could have
got
the Greek fire.
Yeah. That's my point.
He just wants the Greek fire. That's all it is.
That's exactly my point. I
thought
want
it
the
might be.
Greek fire.
That's all you want. And
Just throw that at somebody and watch them burn.
When I go entirely batshit crazy with design ideas for defenders, I have this image of a TDD castle just coming alive and beating the attackers to the wall. Obviously, that's going a bit too far. That's maybe a bit much, but it would be pretty cool.
they could have a giant tree in the middle that has, like the Whomping Willow. It's just bah, no, bah.
Just
I have a feeling
an
that's
arm
an idea
coming
that
out
Mark
of
would
the
like as
castle
well.
and smacking the attackers. A giant hand.
Yeah, for me, the TDD, I always think of, I was thinking about Siege for them, and that's why I kept mentioning some of the anti-personnel stuff, because for me, to a certain degree, it makes sense for them to have a little bit more of that anti-personnel siege power, but not necessarily in the form of direct damage to people, but more they seem to have an emphasis on the AoE and the debuffs and stuff like that, so I could see them having, like, poison barrels and stuff they can throw out that explode on people to weaken them before they...
That's a really cool idea that Narrowan has there. The Ancients of War from Warcraft. in Warcraft 3, the Night Elf towers that could uproot
Yeah.
and then go smack people in the face. That is something I could definitely see for the TV. That would be
Mobile siege tower with arms.
No, not a siege tower, a defensive tower that throws rocks at people and then can root up and punch attackers in the face if they come up to the castle. That'd be awesome.
That would be really fun.
That's what their AI guards will look like anyway. There's be little trees that walk around with.
And then you put 10 fire mage in front of that, and you burn it to the ground.
I still want to be able to burn forests down. That's
Yes.
trees are flammable.
No,
What is this?
I'm a crafter. don't you burn the trees. Chop them down and bring them to me.
Well, you can plant new trees.
Yeah,
You can be a
yeah.
forest keeper.
We'll go Isengard on this. Chop them down.
All of them.
I still like my mobile fortress idea. I could see something like that working for the Vikings as well.
The cool thing about that mobile fortress could be that you basically just... I mean, all you really need is a large chariot with a roof.
Yeah.
And you could use it, for example, also to drive up next to a wall and then have your crafters plant bombs and do all their sapping stuff relatively protected. And that, once again, would force the defenders to come out and do something about it. So,
Well,
I definitely think that
you
there
could
are
always
more...
target the beasts that are dragging the wagon.
Well, I mean, I guess you could...
Then it just becomes a
extend the
defensive
roof,
tower. So.
Yeah.
But I definitely think there's lots of cool possibilities, even if Sarkrex is so pessimistic about it.
He's a little pessimistic about a lot of things.
Yeah, pretty much.
Well,
You know it's
don't get
true,
me wrong.
Sacrix.
Being skeptical about stuff, that's not
It's
a
okay.
crime. That's a good thing.
No, it's a good thing.
It makes
also.
it makes us think about things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
And
one thing.
it's better to be skeptical about stuff and then be pleasantly surprised than horribly, crushingly disappointed.
True
Yeah.
enough.
I agree.
One thing with the Arthurians again, I always have the issue where, because they're so defensively focused, I keep thinking about defense with them, and so I also tried to think about offensive siege as well. And so far, the only thing I was able to think of are they are the ones that need all the really long range trebuchets and everything. I can see them sitting there with the really heavy trebuchets, just setting up huge siege at long distance. But then that becomes a problem because they can't be too long a distance, too long range, because if they're completely out of range of the defenders, then
It makes it boring also for both of us, attackers and defenders.
But I mean, they are already set up that way. That their archer has the longest range, their mage has the longest range. They just and their tanks are the biggest and sturdiest, and they just sit and defend their long-ranged gunners while they bring down the castle stone by stone.
hide back there with a really big trebuchet and lob rocks at it. But then, I guess, on the plus side, if the Vikings and the TDD don't like that, the Vikings can rush out and melee them. That's kind of their thing anyway. And the TDD can maneuver around them and disable them and all that kind of stuff.
And uproot their tree guardians and punch them.
I do want to see, though, for a castle siege, on the attacker side for the Arthurians, the actual turtle from the Roman Legion, with a lot of black guards, all with their shields, doing the turtle and advancing on the castle.
Yeah,
That would be awesome.
I do agree with Sacrix's recent post, though. I love siege. I love siege weapons. But I do really want, and I expect siege weapons to be powerful, but I do want to see them have very focused uses because I don't want to see them. I don't want to see siege battles becoming all about siege engines. Again, the warriors, the melee people have to have a role. They have to have something they can do. I want to see people fighting people, not just standing there guarding trebuchets while they throw rocks back and forth for 2 hours.
They
it
did
wouldn't be
say,
very fun.
though, in the defense of the siege engines, and to say that they're not going to be insta-kill because they will be. It's not like every other MMO out that the arrow that the trebuchet or the ballista throws is just a visual representation of a direct hit effect. It's going to be an actual arrow flying at a relatively slow speed because it's a huge thing going towards you. If you make a few steps on the left or on the right, you're going to be able to avoid that. You're going to be able to physically avoid the damage. So yes, it's going to be making a lot of damage, but it's going to be easy to avoid because you can see it coming slowly from very far.
I just had a crazy realization that I can't really believe never actually occurred to me before. But the siege shots are actual projectiles, and so the air system applies. So
Yes,
what is that going to mean for
do.
mages making air walls and everything, shooting ballista bolts down? I mean, obviously, just a simple shot's not going to do it, but will mages be able to directly like counter fire ballista bolts against the walls and rocks and
I gotta
stuff?
be honest. My only wish for any magically inclined character in Camelot Unchained is just an air wizard who just gets air blasts so that you can just it would be the biggest and best troll class of all time. Oh, a fireball? I don't think so. Have it back. Oh, a siege engine bolt stone thing? Have it back.
Nope.
Well, that's what I was thinking though. Is even if a mage can't completely deflect a trebuchet rock, because that would be kind of absurd. It's huge.
Yeah.
But could they adjust the course slightly so that if they're hammering on this one spot of the wall, he does an air wall, and all of a sudden they're moving a little bit to the right, a little bit to the left, so they're no longer hitting the spot they want to hit, and you're just sitting there going,
or dampening the speed at which it's going, just reduce damage.
Yeah.
And Sacrex, about the tower being destroyed, I'd say you can, if you're outside and actually trying to get the material from that tower, you get a bit of the material back by salvaging the few splinters that are left of the tower. And then with the blueprint, you have to go back and get more materials and build it from scratch. Even with the blueprint, you're going to need the material and the time to build it. So destroying a siege engine should have a huge impact on the attackers also.
Yeah.
The only thing that I think should be easy or quick is actually just repairing a structure that hasn't been entirely destroyed.
Yeah.
So when a wall has crumbled in places, then you should be able to, patch that up quicker than rebuilding an entire wall. And that's also good for the attackers, because once you take a castle and you don't just want to raze it to the ground, you want to take it over, it makes it easier for you to repair the castle again. Or if the defenders win, they can repair their castle quicker as well.
I definitely think siege weapons need to be able to move to and fro. They need to be repaired after a battle and everything. But that's the thing. Like, I think either building them on the field or building them elsewhere and moving them on the field needs to take a lot of time. So you can't just go out to the battle. Oh no, we lost our catapults. Let's build another one in 1 minute and we'll have another catapult. I think if the defenders march out there with their heavy fighters and they smash their catapults, and then you're going to have to go, oh, well, we will withdraw and get more catapults and then come back.
Yeah.
If they've got strong walls, anyway. If you've got ladders, you can just crawl over. That's not an issue. But
yeah, I think destroying a siege engine should make a huge impact, as it did historically on the attackers, because it takes a lot of resources. You can't get 100% of the resources you used to build that siege engine. You can salvage some of it, but you will have to gather more, bring more on the field, and rebuild your thing. Even if it takes a short amount of time with the blueprint, it's still not an ESO catapult that you can summon every 30 seconds.
Yeah.
Good.
We don't want to see people rapidly rebuilding siege weapons. We don't want to see people nightcapping keeps, and we don't want to see people just taking a keep over at any point.
Honestly,
in the middle of the day.
It's not even just that I don't want to see them rebuilding the stuff quickly. It's also that if building a trebuchet is something that actually takes time and effort, then you can also make the trebuchet more powerful. Because then if a guild comes with 10 trebuchets, they probably spent 5 hours making those bloody things. And then I think it's okay if they are, powerful enough to bring a wall down relatively quickly.
Yeah.
What I don't want is siege weapons like in Warhammer Online that were basically pea shooters. I mean, shooting at a gate even with a cannon in Warhammer Online was pointless. It was really just a thing for tanks to do while they had nothing better to do, and that's definitely something I don't want to see.
Yeah.
Yeah. The One of the things that really I was very happy to hear that I mentioned earlier was that having, the farther back a keep is within your territory, and the longer it's been in your control, the longer it takes to capture to prevent backcapping. Because especially with TISO, backcapping was ridiculous. I mean, it was like any other keep. So you just march an army back there to the back of somebody's defensive area, walk into their keep, basically. You get their walls down to a small percentage before the alarm went off, and then all of a sudden smash it and just run in and take everything while there's 5 guys guarding it. It was crazy. And that's one of the things I didn't want to see, especially since I think trade routes, caravan routes, and power, being able to channel power to the stabilizers and the keeps and everything is going to be so important, and I think it's going to require some sort of probably a chain of territory control. Having people go back and back cap would be ridiculous. So I think having that as a system to prevent that is going to be very good.
And I agree, Sacrix. They did say that a small group will not be able to just go around on the back door of the keep and just cap that sneakily. You will have to actually fight your way into the keep, and it's going to take a long time.
Yeah. One thing I think was kind of hinted at in one of the, maybe not the Q&A, but one of the posts or something that I thought was interesting, was the idea that of maybe not capturing an entire territory all at once, possibly even maybe extending that to a big enough keep where perhaps you can you invade and you could take over 1/4 of it, and then you're fighting within the keep to recapture various sections of it. And hold them kind of like in PlanetSide 2, where you've got several facilities that each have their own power and features and everything. You take over one, all of a sudden you're fighting within that one area against somebody in another building, and you're duking it out trying to recapture everything.
Well, I mean, it would really depend on how the castle is built.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the other thing that is so hard to talk about because of how open the building system is. There might be some castles that are just really easy to take over, and others might be borderline impossible unless you bring a lot of people. And that is also what I think makes it so interesting. And I totally get Sacrix with the worry about ladders and siege towers, which is exactly why we haven't seen ladders and siege towers in any other MMORPG that did this sort of siege stuff. Because if you do it wrong, then it's entirely overpowered, and there's no point for defending. Because obviously, in a game, having 50 people defend a castle is a lot. In reality, you have hundreds of people inside the walls, so you can't just put up a ladder somewhere and then suddenly there's this attackers just pouring in. But in an online game, that can absolutely happen. So there need to be limitations to what the ladders and siege towers can do. Mostly, you could probably limit them in how fast they are. So you don't just have a rickety step ladder that you can lean up to the castle and then crawl up, but you have to have an actual, basically an unarmored siege tower as your ladders. That is a bunch of wheels and a platform and then ladders that go to the top. And then having to wheel that up to the castle is so obvious that the defenders can respond. And sure, it's all going to have to be tested, and maybe it sucks, but I do want to see it at least tested once, because I think in most other games that do this sort of thing, they've just dismissed it outright and just never tried.
I really think that siege towers and siege ladders are going to be vital to this game for one chief reason. We have to make the fighters have purpose in the game, and if it's all about range, if there's no way for fighters to possibly actually get in, if they absolutely have to wait for range to take down the walls or the gate, then I think it drastically reduces the importance of fighters. Because what we would see then, I think, is the defenders are all going to roll ranged people, sit on the walls and shoot. Shoot fire siege, shoot arrows, throw magic. And then when people get close, maybe they log out and log into a melee alt or something.
Yeah.
Whereas if there are siege ladders and stuff in the game, then people will still have a reason to be in a fighter because even if people don't use it, there's a chance that the enemies are going to show up with ladders and they're marching up there, and then they're going to have melee people to deal with it, or they have to go out and deal with the catapults and stuff. They're going to need melee people for that as well.
If the defenders want to melee, they can always just use the door.
Rush.
Yeah. It's not really that big of a problem for the defenders. And you're right, because if you don't do that sort of thing, then you end up with a similar situation as in Dark of Camelot, where every Hibernian has an animist for keep defense. And that just isn't that fun when you know you're attacking a Hibernian castle and there's going to be 300 mushrooms waiting right behind the door. It's just, that's silly.
Yeah. I think there's a lot of different things to discuss, and there's of course still a lot of details we don't quite know yet. We've reached our hour. Actually, we normally go for about 45 or so. Well, we try. So I want to officially end the episode and thank everybody for coming out. Thank CloakingDonkey. Thank CloakingDonkey for coming on and chatting with us, and thank all the 24 people who came out and chatting in chat with us. We will have another episode in 2 weeks at the same time, 6:30 PM EST, 11:30 GMT. Will be episode 13. So we will see some of you then.
Thanks.